Aleksandras Zhyvotovsky, Ukrainos nacionalinės elektroninių ryšių spektro ir pašto reguliavimo komisijos pirmininkas. Jis žino, ką reiškia užtikrinti ryšį ne tik taikos, bet ir karo metu. Jo patirtis tai gyvas įrodymas, kad atspari ryšių infrastruktūra yra būtinybė, o ne prabanga.
And because the presentation is going to be done in English, so I would like to introduce Alexander in English as well, for English-speaking viewers as well. So Alexander is the chairman of Ukraine's National Commission for the Regulation of Electronic Communications, Spectrum and Postal Markets. He knows very well what it means to ensure connectivity not only in the times of peace, but also during the war. His experience is a living proof that resilient communications infrastructure is a necessity and not a luxury. Alexander, the stage is yours. Hello.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. First of all, thank you very much for having this opportunity to talk to this honorable audience. We in Ukraine really value our friends in Vilnius, and are grateful for all the support that we received from your country and from the European partners. And it is a great honor for me to share with you some thoughts and experience throughout the war. And I'm very much hopeful that our story will be useful for you guys, and we'll try to make it simple and informative. So we have a little presentation here. I'll go through the presentation and I'll summarize key points, and then maybe we will have the question and answers session. And I understand our colleagues from the Ukrainian operators will be talking today as well. So resilience. Resilience is a word that came to our life in 2022. Prior to 2022, the telecom industry and telecom experience was about more of quality of life. We enjoyed talking to people. We enjoyed having all kinds of virtual meetings. We enjoyed new technologies. But starting in 2022, you see the pictures. All of a sudden, the priorities have changed, and resilience is probably the key word that guides Ukrainian telecom operators. And I think that it is very important to pay attention to this to all of the countries in Europe, especially those that are close to Russia. On the first slide, I'll give you a bit of perspective on what Ukrainian market is in terms of key figures. You see the total revenue from telecom services in 2024 was 3.6 billion euro, and capital investments is a number that we are closely tracking, because that means a lot to the country in general and to the industry of how much the industry invests. So capital investment stands at 600 million euros. The mobile part of the market, we, as many other countries, have three largest mobile operators. Total SIM cards are 48 million. 1.6 billion is total revenue for the mobile service in the country for the last year. A relatively low RPU, 2.7 euro per month, and 30 million 4G users. That's kind of a snapshot of our mobile market. Then the smaller services, the fixed internet is 500 million. It consists of 8 million of lines, where most of it is fiber optic. We pay a lot of attention to the technologies of fiber optic, and this is why you have a percentage of XPON. We'll get to this when we talk about resilience and what technologies are more useful when the electricity runs out. Fixed voice is small, and the postal services is 1 billion. So these are the sectors that we'll look after to give you a perspective of what's of the size of the market. Now, capital expenditures is, as I said, is a figure that we are tracking a lot, and we pay a lot of attention to that. in discussions with the operators and stimulating and making decisions about the quality and the health of our industry and telecom operators. We are happy to see strong growth here. The bitter reality of that, of course, is that the capital expenditures mostly, a big part of them, is a replacement of the equipment that has been damaged in the war zones or by the rocket attacks. As you all know, we every night we have bombings throughout the country, and it affects networks, and we're happy to see the rising trend here, but the reality is that these are replacement capex mostly. Now, if you think about most critical decisions that were undertaken throughout the war, we try to outline them here, and I will talk about it more. First of all, is national roaming. It was introduced in the first weeks of the invasion, and it's still in place. About 1 million out of 40 million users, about 1 million users per day are roaming between the three operators. And you can see, I'm not sure if we have the graph, but if you look at the statistics, then the usage of national roaming peaks when there are trouble with the electricity blackouts, or trouble with the severe bombing attacks. So these are people in need, and national roaming is it provides a limited service. You can't really watch a movie while being in the roaming in the you see this graph, and if you follow the peaks, these are the hard times that the population experience. So the service is limited to 512 kilobyte per second, so you can send messages, you can call, but no movies. So this is kind of an emergency service, and people use it when their local base station of their operators goes out of service for whatever reason. Then if you can put back the previous slide, of course the propaganda is another important part, and we are blocking propaganda in all kinds of in all forms. The access to infrastructure, and I'll talk to it more, but access to electricity infrastructure is one of the critical moments, critical aspects, and we fixed it. The government fixed it at nominal price for the wartime period. Of course, Wi-Fi to the shelters, that was a priority from day one. We have provided operators with the free use of spectrum that was in stock in 2022, and but we've conducted a tender last November and sold those licenses. But prior to that, for 3 years, the operators were using all of the spectrum that we had in place, and the decision was made in the spring of 2022, when large displacements of people have put strain on the networks, and operators required more spectrum to balance out the shifting migration and the loads on the network. And of course, 24/7 communication with industry players and promotion of everything that they need. It started in spring 2022, when we had a call with most of the industry players every other day, without weekends, and still continues with the mood that we need to make sure that the operators need everything in place for smooth operation. All right. Can you put the next slide? This is the for the purposes of presentation, we'll give you an example of two sets of requirements that are aimed at the resilience of networks. And basically, the first was introduced by presidential decree in October 2022, by that time it was obvious that the bombing attacks on the country were focusing on the energy infrastructure, and it was clear that the first winter of 2022 was pretty hot, and in terms of blackouts, and first requirements, to put it simply, was introduced by requiring that mobile service is maintained for 3 days, 72 hours, for a limited number of locations. What we've done, basically, we have over 20 regions in Ukraine, 26 to be precise, and we asked regional administration to provide us with locations where we can classify, which we can classify as critical ones. Those like schools, hospitals, train stations, the areas with dense residential population. And at first there was 8,000 locations throughout the country. Then I think in a couple of years it was decreased to 5,000. But still, the idea was that these 3 days, 72 hours, we couldn't require the service to be throughout the country, but we tried to limit it to critical locations. And in the spring of 2022, the whole idea that the telecom service must work without electricity was a very ambitious idea, and there was the operators, and you'll hear from them, or I'm sure you heard from our operators all of the experience by now, but they were facing a whole lot of problems with that. Problems starting with procurement of basic generators, because it turned out nowhere in the world, there were any sufficient stocks to provide generators and batteries for in such a short period of time. To basic logistics challenges, like a telecom operator was supposed to create teams to first install those generators, then supply them with fuels. And this is kind of totally different scope of work for the staff of the operators, and this is where we all had to pool resources to make sure that they can cope with these requirements. And of course, when this the requirement was introduced in October, it was hard to reach it. But given I think in about half a year, by spring or by summer 23, we were noting that that our three operators were closing in on reaching these targets. And by the end of 2023, we concluded that there was 100% implementation of those targets throughout the country, and by most of the operators. Then, in most recent one, in July 2024, came another level of requirements, which is again we are still in the process of implementing. And well, you see on the slide number, and I think this is a public knowledge by now. This is those figures were introduced in July, and there was a scale like by December 1st, October 1st, November, December, you had to increase percentages throughout the country. So we are this time around we are moving from the concept of critical locations to blank requirements on the base stations throughout the country, and you see the percentages on the screen. We are still in the process of auditing that, and of course, and I have to be clear that in the stated terms, we couldn't confirm the implementations of those. But again, and we are grateful for this cooperation with our telecom operators, that they continue to order these generators and batteries. they continue to modify design of the base stations. For example, it's obvious that you can't use generators, for example, in the densely populated areas. And if your base station is located on top of residential buildings, you can't pull a generator on top of a residential building. So you have to use the batteries. And in order for the batteries to last 8 to 10 hours, as it is required by the new requirements, you have to modify the design of the base station to amend and make these these steel cases to hold those base stations. So a lot of work that that in no country and none have been envisaged to be performed by operators, by engineers of the operators. A lot of that stuff is being implemented, and we are grateful that these investments are ongoing, and our operators are focusing on completing these targets in I think it's a matter of couple of months to reach 100% completion of those targets. So this is basically what we wanted to show as an example of how do you motivate the industry to be resilient to electricity attacks. And I would want to conclude on a couple of points that are not in the presentation, but well, I saw I wondered what would be the general principles for you guys to think about what's the approach to resilience. And I think the best way to think about it is thinking of well, the principles of war haven't changed since the medieval ages, and it has been said that the war is an exercise in efficiency and in the stocks or reserves that you have or any country will have. So if you imagine your country as a fortress on the top of a hill in the medieval times that are planning to resist an invasion, first of all you have to make sure you have enough stocks. And on a household level, it's about food and the medical supplies. And for the telecom services, it's everything starting with equipment for the base stations, enough of cable, enough of electronic SIM cards. I'm not sure that the audience know, but apart from bombing attacks, we had a cyber attack on the biggest operator in Ukraine, and it went down for almost a week. And one of the items in stock that we found out that we need more was basic SIM cards. And in the peacetime, most of the businesses, and you can blame them, and it's a very logical modus operandi. They operate on a lean system, and you stock things that you will require for a week or two of your regular business. But if you prepare for war, that means you have to create stocks, and you make sure you want to make sure that you are well supplied and you have stocks of things that you will need, and that will require time to procure. And as I said, that starts with telecom equipment for your base stations and ends with SIM cards on metals, cables, and whatever else your engineers require that need to be provided, and make sure you're supplied with it and have stocks of it available. Second item on the list is your supplies, or rather sources of that are required for normal operations. If we come back to analogy of the fortress, most fortresses were located on the rivers or by the lakes, because every population needs water. Now, in telecom, our water is electricity, take it or leave it, and it starts with. I spoke a lot about generators and batteries, But most of things that we are focusing now and that require a lot of focus is interaction between telecom companies and energy companies, utilities, because it as it turned out, the requirements for the supply of electricity to base stations need to be amended to make sure that the batteries that you install on them, are being resupplied. So you have to focus on your interaction with the electricity suppliers, because this is one essential ingredient for the networks and for the telecommunications. The other important ingredient is more, and this is where you guys can tell us a lot, is the supply of traffic. And with all those troubles in the Baltic Sea and the underwater cables, you can talk about that a lot. But what we found out is that it is good to have as much as decentralized system of supplying data as possible. Third item on the list is cooperation between the government and industry players, cooperation between industry players, cooperation between adjacent sectors. Like if you're a telecom operator, some of your base stations, and the most important base stations, will be located on top of malls or residential buildings. And in that case, you have to have, and we try to stimulate that and to make sure that the interaction between telecom operators and, for example, real estate operators, the mall operators, to install those equipment and make sure that base stations are connected to the industrial generators that are located there. This is important. The cooperation between telecom operations and adjacent sectors where these base stations are located, that is important. Fourth item on my list is the right balance between centralization and decentralization. Because on one hand, well, Ukrainian legislation allows or requires that in the wartime you create, we call it NCU, the National Telecommunications Center, or the National Telecommunications Management Center. This is a unit that creates a unified system of orders for every operator. So you don't, in the wartime, you don't have time to go through public hearings or discuss and deliberate every rule that needs to be implemented, on one hand. On the other hand, we are grateful for the fact that we have over 4,000 internet service providers in the country. And with that density of entrepreneurs involved, we were blessed to have the low interruption of service, because when you do have a lot of decentralized networks, they create, and again, the stuff that I said about the data supply and how the internet goes into your country and goes out into your country, decentralization is as good as a strong centralized command. So you have to pick the right balance in that. And the final item that you want to make sure to prepare for war is planning. You need to have plan A, plan B, plan C. It is obvious, and it is scary now to tell that most of us didn't believe that the invasion will happen in the end of February 22, despite all of the warnings. And it was hard. So going forward, and now 3 years into the war, you learn to plan on your basic level, as a household, or in the industry. You have to make sure and have answers to basic questions. How do you operate if the bombing attacks start? How do you need to move your office? Do you need to make sure that your employees can connect and work online? And these are the challenges that every operator also faces. with the high density of work online, with the planning of how do you locate, relocate, and how do you protect your core infrastructure and back up those, and the more you plan, the better you sleep at night. So this is a kind of a brief our story as we see it, what we have done, and I would be happy to answer any questions and talk and share more experiences with you if there's time and interest. Thank you.
Thank you so much.